Wake your bitch ass up!
Here's how'd you get on my computer?
Don't worry about it. You don't want to know the answer anyway. Wake up now, bro! Come on, man! Wake up! Wake up now! Wake up now! Wake up now!
Well, I guess it's fair to say that this one took a while, huh? So way back when I did my last channel update, I was telling you guys that my next review was planned to be New Gundam Breaker, which I had actually totally planned to get done way sooner, but it took far too long to make sure I finished that entire game because I wanted to do absolutely everything before I tried to share my piece on it. And now that I finally got that done more than a year later, I think it's finally time that I get into the meat and potatoes of this thing, you know? So New Gundam Breaker takes place in the world of Gundam Build Fighters, and if you don't know what that is, in the words of my boy Migsby, it's actually basically the Gundam version of Metabots. And if you don't know what Metabots is, I'm sorry, that's a story for another day. But if you want to know the story of Gundam Build Fighters, that's cool, because that's a story for right now. So in a nutshell, the world of Gundam Build Fighters is one in which regular everyday people like me and you love Gundam so much that worldwide it's been turned into a sport. So much so that big corporations have created special arenas that use special particles which can turn everyday regular Gundam models that are handmade by people like us in the real world into fighting, moving, realistic robots. And it's awesome actually. You should go check out that series. I highly recommend it. They actually have a couple of different seasons, different characters, different settings, whatever. So in the world of New Gundam Breaker, you play a high school student who just got accepted into Gunbra High School, your typical anime high school that teaches the world's best insert anime job here. But no sooner than your first day at school, you find out things aren't as they seem on the outside because the entire school is run by a whole bunch of elitist assholes who like to place students in a ranking system based on how well they do gunpla battle, and they treat everybody like shit, steal parts, keep people from being able to customize their Gundams, all that kind of jazz. So it's up to you to gather all the anime waifus you can find in this setting, build a team, go against the student council, eventually defeat the president and save the school and make everything fun again. And that's it. Every mission boils down to the same thing in this game. You run into another council asshole who's ruining some other aspect of school life here. You get to fight them, you beat them, you recruit the person they were oppressing in that scene, and then you move on to the next one. Things barely get any better when you run into the student council president. Turns out this asshole is just salty because way back when, so far that your character doesn't even remember, you beat him in a tournament and his salty ass has carried that shit all the way into his high school life where he ruined the fun for everybody else. With this information in mind, you rush headlong into a cheap-ass boss fight where you end up dethroning the student council president, then you take over as president yourself, and as I mentioned before, make school fun again for everybody. So that must be the end of it, right? Nope. See, what happens is, as you were playing the story mode, with each passing mission when you met new characters, you unlocked different branching story paths that included the characters you had just met. And I can pretty much imagine you thinking to yourself that these extra story paths are where all the interesting bits of the story went, like things you might not have known, or, you know, some deeper motivations or more interaction with these characters. Nope. Every storyline in this game follows the exact same story with only the very minor deviation of which girl that you've met throughout the entire story that you interact with throughout said story. So, at the end of the day, for 7 different story paths, this basically boils down to a pick your waifu simulator. The repetitive nature of the story mixed with the repetitive gameplay, which I'll touch on in a minute, made it very hard to want to get through all 7 of these storylines because the only thing you get at the end of it is another series of missions wherein you can farm very specific types of parts for your gunpla sets, which is cool and all, but by the time I finished 7 different story modes, I had already finished so many different sets of gunpla, it felt like almost entirely unnecessary. On top of that, you don't really have control over which sets you're farming within those story missions, so it's all still very random. The other side of the gameplay here is that the game focuses on what they call GQ battles, wherein 2 teams of 3 fight to complete a constantly revolving door of objectives, and each objective is worth certain points. Whoever completes the objectives first gets those points added to their scoreboard, and at the end of a time limit, and in this game that can go on for 10 to 20 minutes, the team with the highest points wins. To be frank, my biggest gripe with this system is that there's no option for time limit settings, and that's really grating to me because these matches go on for far too long if you're asking me that one. And the reason I say that is because none of these objectives have any sort of diversity. The only objectives that ever come up are kill 20 neutral units, kill 4 of a certain kind of Gundam, 1 Gundam shows up and has a key part, kill it, take that and deposit it. And then at the end of a bunch of random objectives, you'll occasionally fight the random perfect grade Gundam, which is way bigger than normal units, or a mobile armor. And after those, if you're playing a story mission, it'll try to curtail everything by saying, hey, go fight that one boss character, and that ends everything. And if you try to play online matches, and if you're playing with friends, you don't have that option because that's a story mode only thing that goes on there. So you end up having to play these forever matches with these constantly boring objectives with no control over what's spawning in the map, and it just gets old really fast. Imagine me fighting through 7 story modes of that for 20 minutes at a time. Despite all of that, I was seriously vexed because I couldn't put this game down for the life of me. I was so hooked. It was my first time playing this, and regardless of all of its problems, which only really became known to me far down the line playing this game was so addictive at the time. There was hardly a greater sense of accomplishment than being able to make a badass Gunpla build, which came with its own stats and special attacks and things like that, and all you ever wanted to do was, oh, there's that one build that just came out, oh, I want to good parts off of that because I want to add that to my build. And then whenever you got that stuff, you couldn't just settle for switching out one part. You had to make entire new builds. The whole shit was crazy. I'd never played anything like it before. If I had to equate it to something, it reminded me of when I was a kid in the mid-2000s playing Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2 on the PS2. For the life of me, I couldn't put that game down for years because all I ever wanted to do was build new cars and drag race and shit like that. It was kind of the same feeling. Every time you want to make something new, the first thing you want to do is go play a whole slew of missions and try to show off. And if it didn't work, the first thing you want to do is go figure out why it didn't work and make new shit. The other selling point for me at the time was the graphics, because the Unreal Engine was used on this game and it was used damn well. For every boring thing like static character portraits that were fully voice acted in story cutscenes, they had amazing things like all these good looking mobile suits and all these fully realized Gundam environments from different series all throughout. And they were varying sizes and details and things. Like you could go from a space stage to the desert stage to like all other sorts of things. There were even environments that were based in real life, since these are in fact Gunpla. They'd be playing in shit like warehouses. It was awesome. Although I will have to concede that that's stuff that came down the line, because this game had a ton of issues at launch that are obviously well behind us, but at the same time I don't have footage to show you of that because this game had tons of performance issues, lag, crashing. The online matches were barely serviceable because they worked on peer-to-peer connections, and it was nuts at the time. Like, I remember streaming this game and people were sitting here honestly wondering if it was my internet making it a problem for them to watch the game because it was constantly skipping. All of these things snowballed, unfortunately, and made a big problem for me personally, because I'm the kind of person that if I get hooked on something hard enough, I automatically want to go and platinum the game. And since this game had so many problems at launch, I didn't want to try doing online matches, so I totally ignored that and went straight for single player content. And after doing all that bullshit with the story mode and it taking me so long to do that, and it was only like 2 months since that happened, but it was enough time that with all the issues the game had and there weren't patches in sight, that they totally let the online community die for this game. I was sitting here for months just randomly trying to queue up quick matches to get my online trophies to see if it could happen, and I was sitting here for 20 to 30 minutes at a time looking at myself being the only person in a queue. I guess in that regard, being stubborn paid off though, because after I streamed this game enough and after I constantly played it and people saw that I was really willing to platinum this, a bunch of my friends got together and picked up the game, and we managed to just randomly queue up together at one time and finally got into some quick matches, and I finally made that platinum happen a whole year and some odd change later after the game came out. There's more I could say here, but I feel like I kind of get the point across to you. There's a little bit more details I'm missing here, so don't crucify me if I left out some stuff. I feel like it's verdict time though, because I've already been going on for a little while here. So in the case of New Gundam Breaker, I actually want to forego numbers here. I don't want to give you a 1 to 10. It's really difficult because I have such a polarizing history with this game at this point. There are things to enjoy, yes, but it's also buried within a pile of bullshit. So I would tell you that if you listen to my experience here, if you really want to figure it out for yourself, go try it out. I don't see why not, because at this point you can go to your local GameStop and get this shit for under $20, so there's not much to complain about here. Now that all said and done, folks, I think that's all the time I have for today, so I hope that whatever information I provided today was helpful to you if you're looking to see what's up with this game. I really appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate the support. Thank you to everybody who's been looking forward to this over on the Twitch channel and whatnot. I hope that it was worth the wait. But next time when I make one of these videos, we're going to be looking at the previous game in the series, Gundam Breaker 3, which was donated to me by another friend of my channel, Ren. Hi, by the way. And I definitely have a good amount of thoughts on that game as well, so look forward to it. So if anything, have a great night, everybody, and I'll see you next time.